What is going on, Trash Talkers? We're back with another episode for you. In today's video, we're going to be talking about the Cleveland Browns and their 2021 season preview, including record predictions. All that and much more coming your way right now! Hey Trash Talkers, it's Mike here. Over 93% of you who view our show each and every day are not subscribed to the channel. If you could hit that red subscribe button, it would help us out tremendously, and it is completely free for you guys. If you want to stay up to date with our daily content, then click that bell icon and you will be notified every time we go live. Nick and I both really appreciate you subscribing to the channel, and we can't wait to keep making more daily content for you. All right, Nick, as we continue this series, we are almost finished. We are almost at the finish line. Two more teams to go today, talking about the Cleveland Browns and all of the additions and losses that they've had, but mostly additions because we have talked about them nonstop all offseason, apparently. Starting off with some of these additions that the Browns made: John Johnson III, Troy Hill, Malik Jackson at defensive tackle, Jadeveon Clowney opposite Myles Garrett, Anthony Walker, Jeremiah Owusu-Koromoah, and Greg Newsome II. Nick, out of all of these absolutely insane additions that the Browns made, who do you see as the biggest impact player moving forward?
Well, I have to say hats off to the Browns because they absolutely won the offseason. They absolutely filled every hole and then some on this team. This defense is probably the scariest in the NFL. I think that they are the ones that are going to end up being the team to beat. The Cleveland Browns have really put themselves in a prime position to win it all this season. They really have. And to me, the biggest additions are coming at the linebacking position. I'm going to take all three: Jadeveon Clowney, Anthony Walker, and Jeremiah Owusu-Koromoah. The three of these guys are going to be absolute pillars for this linebacking core. They needed to completely overhaul this linebacking core, and with these three guys, they're able to do that. Jeremiah Owusu-Koromoah was an absolute steal in the second round. Jadeveon Clowney finally comes over to the Cleveland Browns after not doing so last season. I believe they've got the guys to get tackles. They've got the guys to get edge rush. They've got the guys to really command this defense. It's all about putting it all together, and that's what's going to be really interesting to see how they can all work together, how they all can become one cohesive unit. They have all the talent. I believe that the linebackers are really going to be a big reason why this team has a lot of success. It was such a massive upgrade for the Cleveland Browns this offseason.
Every addition that I mentioned was on the defensive side of the ball. I mean, it just straight up it was. So obviously, the winner is the Cleveland Browns defense. I mean, there's not one player that I can truly point to and say that's the difference maker. All of these guys together are just going to be absolutely phenomenal. You know, just breaking it down quickly: Jadeveon Clowney, Myles Garrett. I mean, is there a better 1-2 punch at the defensive end position? Maybe J.J. Watt and Chandler Jones. That's pretty much it. That's the list. The Cardinals, the Browns. That's the list. Outside of that, you have John Johnson and Troy Hill joining a backfield where they drafted Greg Newsome II. They already had Denzel Ward and Greedy Williams. You already had Grant Delpit, who missed last year, the hard-hitting safety from LSU, one of the best safeties coming out of the draft last year. He's coming back fully healthy. These guys are going to be able to cover. They're going to be able to hit. They're going to be able to do everything. And on top of that, you have Malik Jackson joining the middle of the defensive line. It's just absolutely phenomenal all the way around. But with those additions did come some losses, and we're going to talk about those relatively quickly, starting off with Terrance Mitchell, Larry Ogunjobi, Sheldon Richardson, Olivier Vernon, and Karl Joseph. Nick, out of these losses, which do you think will have an impact on the Browns moving forward?
Yeah, none really stand out too much here, but if I'm going to choose somebody, it's going to be Larry Ogunjobi. I believe him and Myles Garrett worked really well together on the defensive line, and Larry Ogunjobi was a very strong defensive tackle, kind of like that hybrid. He could do both, stop the run, he could get a pass rush on the quarterback as well. And with him going to Cincinnati, him leaving the team, Malik Jackson, he's a solid defensive tackle. He's had a lot of success in his career, but he is on the bad side of 30. I believe that he's got to prove himself still. Larry Ogunjobi is a guy in his mid to late 20s and still firing on all cylinders. So I think Malik Jackson has the potential to be Larry Ogunjobi, but I just don't know if he's able to stay to be that consistent. I believe that this is the only place where you could find a drop off in productivity.
Yeah, I mean, I take a look at these losses, and Karl Joseph just hasn't been the same in years. You talk about Terrance Mitchell and Sheldon Richardson, Olivier Vernon. He's seen his best days well behind him back in Miami, even back with the New York Giants. But at this point with the Browns, it never really clicked for him. I believe that these losses just kind of they were players that filled positions. Now they got the guys that accelerate at those positions. And when you take a look at their additions versus their losses, they filled every hole that they lost and then some. So I believe that they got better at every position. You talked about the defensive tackle. Larry Ogunjobi, a big loss. On top of that, Sheldon Richardson, again, you had both of them. Now you don't have either one. You replace them with Malik Jackson, who struggled in the last couple of years in Jacksonville after, Jalen Ramsey and all those guys left. So a lot there to unpack, but I think if there is one weakness on this team, it is the interior of their defensive line. Either way, I'd be happy to have Malik Jackson as a defensive tackle. So here we are. All right, with those additions and losses covered, let's take a look at their schedule and take a look at their 2021 record predictions. All right, taking a look at the schedule for the Cleveland Browns, we start off with week 1 where the Browns are on the road in Arrowhead Stadium taking on the Kansas City Chiefs. There is a lot of different ways that I would rather start my season than starting off in Arrowhead Stadium against the Chiefs, who are coming off of a Super Bowl loss where they frankly got embarrassed. And the Chiefs now have a lot to play for. They have a lot that they are on the revenge tour. They're coming for what is rightfully theirs, or what they believe is rightfully theirs. And at this point, the Chiefs, they are full throttle. They are all cylinders. I think the Browns, they're going to take a little bit to mesh, and going into Arrowhead with this revamped offensive line for the Chiefs, I think they're going to be able to topple what the Browns have been able to put together. They just haven't had the playing time just yet to really have everything clicking. I think the Chiefs come out on top in week 1.
It's an upset loss in week 1, but moving into week 2, the Houston Texans head to Cleveland as the Cleveland Browns get an early bye week. Oh wait, did I say early bye week? I mean it might as well be, because the Cleveland Browns have to face the Houston Texans, who don't have J.J. Watt, Deshaun Jackson, Will Fuller, or anybody that you can consider a playmaker at this point. The Houston Texans are a Division II team in the NCAA, and the Browns are just going to absolutely trample all over them in week 2.
All right, in week 3, the Browns are at home yet again, taking on the Chicago Bears. This is the Andy Dalton-led Chicago Bears, and guess what? Andy Dalton ain't going to beat this Browns team, I'll tell you that much. He ain't Patrick Mahomes. He is not going to be able to do what is going to be necessary to beat this team. On top of the fact, they don't have the requisite players on the offensive side of the ball to score points, and they don't have the players on the defensive side of the ball to stop them from scoring points. So at this point in time, the Bears just do not match up with the Browns. The Browns will get an easy victory in week 3.
The Bears don't match up with the Browns, and in week 4, the Minnesota Vikings definitely don't match up with the Cleveland Browns, as the Browns are just going to take advantage of the Vikings. If they can stop Dalvin Cook, which is going to be their biggest feat, then it's game over, because Kirk Cousins is going to have to go up against a secondary that is ready for him. They are going to cover Adam Thielen and Justin Jefferson, and there's really nothing else the Vikings can do besides rely on their 3 main playmakers on offense. There's nobody else that can really step up for them and help them out in a bad situation. And I believe the Browns defense is definitely up for the task, and the Browns offense is going to be a little too much for the secondary with Jarvis Landry, OBJ back on the field. And then you've got the 2-headed monster running back. It's a little too explosive for the Vikings to handle, and the Browns get another big victory in week 4.
Then in week 5, the Cleveland Browns stay on the road, this time going across the country to the Los Angeles Chargers. And, you're going from Cleveland to Minnesota to Los Angeles. There's going to be some sluggishness here. I believe that the Browns, they are built to last. I believe that pass rush defense can travel anywhere. This defense versus the Chargers offense is going to be one crazy thing to watch. I'm really excited for this matchup, but I do believe that the Browns have the offensive firepower to take advantage of this lackluster Chargers defense, and they're going to be able to score points at the rate that the Chargers just will not be able to. And I believe that the Browns are going to come out on top in week 5.
Moving into week 6, the Arizona Cardinals head to Cleveland. This is possibly a Super Bowl preview. These two teams have really made the biggest improvements from last season. And with JJ Watt now on the Arizona Cardinals, with AJ Green on the Arizona Cardinals, this is going to be a very good matchup. Outside of the Kansas City Chiefs, this is going to be the biggest test of the season for the Cleveland Browns. This is where they're really going to have to show that they are ready to compete with the big boys, the guys who have made it to the playoffs year after year. And I believe that the Browns have exactly what it takes to upset the Arizona Cardinals. When you look at the Browns defense, this is going to be where the key focus is in this matchup. It's going to be who can stop the opposing offense from scoring first. And to me, when you look at the secondary, when you look at the edge rush, it's going to be a little too much for Kyler Murray. He's going to get overwhelmed very quickly because the Arizona Cardinals don't have a very strong offensive line. They're getting stronger at it, but the bookends are where Myles Garrett's going to take advantage of it. Jadeveon Clowney is going to take advantage of it. I believe that Kyle Murray is going to be running around a lot more than we'll see Baker Mayfield, and Baker Mayfield's going to be calm, cool, and collected. He's going to be showing up to make some plays in week 6, and the Browns get a big victory against the Arizona Cardinals.
In week 7, the Denver Broncos make their way to Cleveland, and the Denver Broncos can't figure out who they're going to be starting at quarterback. Teddy Bridgewater, Drew Lock, doesn't really matter because at this point, their biggest strength is their wide receivers and their weapons. Well, the Browns have the kryptonite, if you will, for that, and that saying that they have the corners to be able to cover those guys. They have the safeties to stay over the top. They have linebackers and front seven that can get home without having to blitz. And this Denver Broncos offensive line is going to struggle against that front seven. I believe that, again, Myles Garrett, Jadeveon Clowney, they are going to have a field day, and I believe that the Cleveland Browns will come out on top in week 7.
Headed into week 8, the Cleveland Browns get to host their favorite team, the Pittsburgh Steelers, their division rival, in a very big matchup as the Steelers have been the top dog in the division for it seems like a decade at this point, and the Browns are ready to take claim of the division as their own. They've been on a massive win streak, 6 in a row, and they're looking to make it 7. Do the Steelers have the defense to handle the Browns offense? That's really the question. And the answer is no. The Steelers do not have what it takes. With the losses of guys like Mike Hilton in that secondary, it's going to be a little too much for the Steelers to handle. Micah Fitzpatrick's a safety, and he may be able to handle Austin Hooper, but what's he going to do against Jarvis Landry or Odell Beckham? What's he going to do against this running attack? They really don't have anybody to stop this offensive attack on defense. TJ Watt's definitely not going to be the answer as well. The Cleveland Browns get a very big divisional win in week 8.
Then in week 9, the Browns go on the road where they face off against their Ohio rivals. Yes, that's right. The state rival, the Cincinnati Bengals. And I believe that the Browns are in a much different position than where the Bengals are. Bengals are still trying to improve this team. They're still trying to get up and running as a franchise, really start to put the pedal to the metal as far as, where this team can go and contending for possibly playoff spot. The Browns, they're looking for Super Bowl or bust at this point, and I believe that the Browns are just so much stronger than the Bengals. They're going to wipe the floor with them easily week 9.
Headed into week 8, the Cleveland Browns make their way to Foxborough, facing off against Bill Belichick and Cam Newton, a very big matchup for the Cleveland Browns. This is going to be a very good game because the Patriots are very run heavy, and so they're not going to have to face off against that Cleveland Browns secondary all too much. But to me, when you look at John Johnson, he's a big free safety, and Grant Delpit is a big safety in general. These two are really going to help out against the running attack. Anthony Walker is going to be big. JOK, he's going to be massive as well. I believe the Browns definitely have the guys to stop the Patriots, but they're going to be throwing a lot of different looks, and I think it's going to make for a very exciting game. But nonetheless, the Cleveland Browns have too much going for them on both sides of the ball. Get the big win over the Patriots on the road.
Then in week 11, the Browns go back home where they host the Detroit Lions, and the Detroit Lions are arguably one of the worst teams in football going forward. I mean, you have players like Jared Goff and Michael Brockers that came over from the Los Angeles Rams, but trade was all for the draft picks. I mean, Jared Goff is essentially a bridge quarterback at this point. He has nobody to throw to, or nobody of note at least. And then you have really nothing to write home about on the defensive side of the ball. So at this point, the Lions just need a hope and a prayer to get through the season, and the Browns are going to make their wish their command, because at this point, they're just going to send them packing early.
Moving into week 12, the Cleveland Browns have not lost a game since week 1. And now they get to face their other division rival, the Baltimore Ravens, on the road in week 12 in a very big matchup. The Baltimore Ravens have shown this season that they are very much competing for the division title as well. And each one of these division games is going to be massive. But on the road, this is a very tough task for the Cleveland Browns. The Baltimore Ravens know them pretty much better than any other team in the league. And I believe even with the overhaul the Browns have made this offseason, it's still not going to change how John Harbaugh and this coaching staff scheme up against the Browns. I believe that the Ravens are just going to outcoach and outplay the Browns in week 12.
Yeah, and I mean, it's been a long time from the start of the season all the way until their week 13 bye week, where after the bye week, they come out a little refreshed, right? They had a week off, they can kind of get some rest, heal up some of those injuries, and the Browns are back at home facing off against the Ravens for the second time in 2 straight games. 3 weeks, but 2 straight games, and the Browns saw what they needed to see in week 12, and now they're going to take advantage of the Ravens in week 14. I look for the Browns to really put the pedal to the metal here. They know what they're fighting for. They're striving for a Super Bowl, and at this point, the Browns are going to take advantage of the Baltimore Ravens beating them in week 14.
Headed into week 15, the Browns stay at home hosting the Las Vegas Raiders in a very good matchup, as the Raiders have a lot of speed on their offense. They've got a lot of running backs that they can utilize, and they're going to really test this defense of the Cleveland Browns to see if they have the speed, the power to handle this Las Vegas offense. And when you look at the Browns offense compared to the Raiders defense, they get to face off against Yannick Ngakoue, a guy they saw twice last year. And the edge rush as a whole for the Las Vegas Raiders has really come full circle. They've really become well-rounded. The Browns offensive line, though, is still one of the best, if not the best, in the NFL. And to me, they're going to continue to hold these pass rushes at a distance. They're going to give Baker some time in the pocket to work, and the Raiders secondary is just not going to be able to handle this wide receiver attack, the rushing attack, even the receiving attack out of the backfield. It's just going to be a lot for this Raiders team to handle, and the Browns get another big win in week 15.
Then in week 16, the Cleveland Browns go on the road to Lambeau Field, where they take on the Aaron Rodgers-less Green Bay Packers. That's right. You're going to face off against Jordan Love and the Green Bay Packers. And guess what? Jordan Love just ain't that guy, pal. Yeah, he ain't that guy. So, I mean, when you're taking a look at this Packers team, they have some really great weapons on the offensive and defensive side of the ball. Without Aaron Rodgers, they're barely a winning organization. I mean, they can barely win a couple of games here and there. So, at this point, Jordan Love just he's not the answer, and I believe that the Browns are going to stomp all over the Aaron Rodgers-less Green Bay Packers in week 16.
In week 12, I talked about how big these divisional matchups are for the Cleveland Browns, and they get their second chance to face off against the Pittsburgh Steelers. This time, they're on the road. They got the better of the Steelers the first time around, but the Steelers, Mike Tomlin, he's ready for some revenge. He's ready to show that he's not willing to just hand over the division, hand over the keys, and the Cleveland Browns are really going to have to work in this game. The Steelers' offense is going to be extremely explosive, and I just don't know if the Browns are going to be able to handle Najee Harris after he's seen you once before. I think Najee Harris is really going to be a bigger playmaker in this game than he was the first time around, and he's going to end up being the difference maker that gets the Steelers their victory over the Cleveland Browns, splitting the series for the season in week 17.
And then in week 18, the Cleveland Browns are fighting with the Buffalo Bills for that number 1 seed. Remember, the only the number 1 seed gets a bye week in the NFL anymore. So that is super critical for every franchise. They want going into the playoffs to have a week off where they can watch the other teams just beat up on each other, possibly an upset brewing. The Browns know that they have to win this game, and it comes against their, yes, again, cross-state rivals, Cincinnati Bengals. The Bengals, again, are in a different situation than where the Browns are. The Bengals are looking to improve upon the season that they had last year. They're looking to really get things done and working with this team, kind of figure out where they are and what they have to improve upon. The Browns, they have Super Bowl aspirations, and they're going to put the pedal to the metal early and often in week 18. They're going to close out their season in style, and I believe that the Browns will come out with the victory in week 18.
Wow, with a record of 14-3, the Cleveland Browns have really turned themselves around, and they have tied themselves in the conference with the Buffalo Bills. It'll be interesting to see who is the number 1 seed, to see who gets that bye week in the playoffs. You'll just have to stay tuned for the wild card round to see who gets that bye week. But for the 14-3 season the Cleveland Browns had was unbelievable. Those additions they made in the offseason really came through. They proved to be the missing weapons for this team. And you saw this offense really come into his own as well. Baker Mayfield is still growing as a quarterback. People have to stop looking at him as a bust because he was a number 1 overall pick and hasn't been to a Super Bowl yet. That's just how it goes sometimes. And Baker Mayfield has been above average, but this season he's really shown he can take command of the offense and he can really deliver, bringing home some wins, capitalizing on some big plays for the Cleveland Browns. To me, this Browns team as a whole has really overhauled itself. They've really proven themselves, and they're ready to make themselves known in the playoffs. This is going to be a very big change for the NFL as a whole, as the Browns hope to lead the changing of the guard going into the next phase of the NFL.
Yeah, I mean, we're taking a look at the Cleveland Browns as one of the pillars of the NFL season, and taking a look at where they've been. And we're talking about bags on the head, 0-16 seasons. I mean, we're talking about the joke of the NFL. Some people didn't even think they belonged in the NFL, wanted to change them out for college football teams, Canadian football teams, arena football teams. Take a look at their storied history of the quarterback position, Johnny Manziel. I mean, you can go in so many different ways to think of all of that and to see them come to a 14-3 season with all of the additions that we talked about, with the GM and head coach that they currently have. They are built to last. They are built to win now and continue to grow and win in the future. This is a very young team. This is a team that is growing together, and I look for the Browns to really just start putting their imprint on the league right now, because we're going to see them in the playoffs for a long, long time to come. But at this point, the Browns are just too strong. And the Browns going to the Super Bowl is not going to be a joke about going to the bathroom anymore. This is simply going to be a reality for years on end. All right, well, that's going to do it for now. Thank you all for watching. Be sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Hit that notification bell. We go live every single day. That'll be all. Peace and love.